Welcome. So, wow, that was pretty horrible. That collaborate session. Everything. My driver didn't work. The bandwidth wasn't right. So we will fix that. Different computer next week, different location, and we'll get that done. I think it'll be a huge benefit if we can get that up and going. But we will proceed with the YouTube stuff for this week. Personal finance, like I alluded to in the syllabus, if you don't understand this stuff, not only is it going to hurt you in your own personal life and business and everything else, but obviously you need to pass it. But the whole concept of the time value of money and some of the other fairly kind of basic concepts, but man, they can really kill you if you don't get it. So. We'll talk more about the courses as we get into it. A couple quick questions. Number one, I'll put this out there on YouTube, and then I'll work on the details. It's actually going to take a different computer and, like I say, more bandwidth, and we'll get that going. But I think it will work better. Everything's going to have to be done on Blackboard. This is distance learning, so I'm not trying to penalize anybody who can't be up here on Collaborate, what they call synchronous. The whole asynchronous thing, that's you watching, YouTube later. That'll be just fine, and you'll get, you'll do all right. Obviously, people take distance learning classes for different reasons, and I've been there, and my intent is not to penalize anybody who can't be sitting in a classroom. There's different reasons for taking those classes, and I appreciate and acknowledge those. A couple quick questions. People have asked me about homework, how it's going to be turned in. It will be turned in via Blackboard. Just have to load the module on that, and that's my thing. But the way homework's going to work, I just want your homework done before we start the next session, the next week. So it'll probably be like a Tuesday of the following week turn-in kind of thing, depending on your schedule. The important part is you get it done. Syllabus stuff. I think most of you understood the syllabus. If you had any questions, get back to me. Some of you, I guess, couldn't even open it up based upon it being a Word document. I can put it in PDF. That's no problem for me. So I think in PDF everybody will be able to do it. Tests we'll do it proctored, or not proctored. Sorry, wrong word. It's going to be done via Blackboard. There's some things we can do on Blackboard where the questions will come up in random order, the answers will be different, they'll be up for a certain length of time, and it would be real hard to cheat or something, because the whole proctoring at all these different locations is not going to work out, for you or for the university. So we'll try and stay away from that. And I think that's probably about most of the admin kind of stuff. My background, I was a career military, but kind of an unusual career. I spent my first part flying F-4s and F-15Es, but only did that for really about 10 years. And then I got deeply involved in logistics and other stuff. There's a lot of military tasks that need to be done that are business related. In fact, we had a business unit down in Luxembourg, logistics, and believe me, there's tons of stuff doing. As I alluded to, I was over in Europe most of the time. I did like 3 years in Turkey, 3 or 4 in Spain, probably around 6 altogether in Germany. I still have a house there and stuff. So all that stuff was pretty interesting, but it's given me a different perspective. I've got my MBA, my PhDs, the dissertations in review. So there you go. A little bit about me, though. These labs have a few different dogs. One of the horses, my daughter's. Right now, I guess I've got 16 different animals around the house, between 3 pigs and a litter of pups and everything else. And there's actually a third horse. Well, there she is, Dakota. So, but anyway, like I say, did a lot of logistics stuff and a lot of stuff in Eastern Europe. So, pretty familiar with that. But the basic concepts of finance, I've been doing that since day one. And this is really what it gets down to, this introductory title there, the time value of money. That's what we're going to discuss here, and we'll start in. Some objectives. A lot of this is going to be, some of your information. If you're smart, you can put this together and maybe get some good out of this course to get you kind of on the right direction. But if we want to use fictitious numbers or whatever, if you're sensitive about putting those kind of numbers out there, I completely understand that. But anyway, we'll use some examples so that you can get a little bit more out of the system. Process for making financial decisions. What's personal finance? Obviously, things that apply in business also apply to your personal life. And there's different things you can do. You can. Well, obviously, you're in college. You're fairly motivated. You're trying to work on the income side of it. But once you get that income, how are you going to hold on to it? How are you going to make it? And you need to get to a certain point where your money's working harder than you are. So there's plenty of people out there who are on the other side of the scale where they make a fair amount of money, but they're basically slaves to paying interest. I mean, I appreciate those people because that's the way capitalism works. That's you need people working hard and paying exorbitant interest rates so that things can go. And not to say that I'm definitely not an anti-capitalist. I'm just saying that there's those people out there. But yeah, lending and all the processes that are involved in that. That's how things work. I mean, you wouldn't be able to buy a house. You wouldn't be able to buy a car. You would have real issues, and business would just not work. So, important parts of that. Financial planning process. I'm just going to kind of not blow through these slides, but I'm going to try and key on the more important things. I certainly don't want to read them to you. But yeah, financial aspects of personal relationships. Everybody knows about that, and just sort of a peace of mind. Plus, especially at your point in your life, for most of you, you're fairly bulletproof in terms of, life insurance. You aren't really too concerned about that, and you want to save for your future. But this is actually a point in your life where you might be able to be a little bit more aggressive than somebody's, zooming in on retirement and has to worry about preserving wealth. So, anyway, you can set yourself up for life, or you can blow it all off and pay huge interest rates and be doomed regardless of how much money you make. So anyway, the process for doing your planning, 6 steps here. You can break these up into different groups. I'm not going to test on exact steps here, but you figure out where you're at, current situation, develop some goals, course of action, evaluate the alternatives, create a plan. This is a planning cycle that applies to anything, to include financial planning. Determine your current financial situation. Like I say, things are going to change for you, and I wouldn't necessarily plan things right now unless you're already established in your career and going to college part-time. But if you're, going to college to better yourself and make more income, you may want to look at that situation that's a little different than, when I went to college. I wasn't really concerned, nor did I have the money to jump in there and start buying stocks and things like that. So you might be looking 5-10 years down the road, and it makes a lot more sense. Life insurance to a lot of you doesn't make a bit of sense right now, but if you have a home and family, children, stuff like that, you certainly don't want to leave them with debts. You prefer to, if you got to go, the very small chance, and that's figured in the insurance tables, where insurance and other things for you could be quite cheap. So we'll look at that. Financial goals, again, looking further out. So I'm saying, look at about 5 years down the road where you think you're going to be making your income, and then determine where you want to be, say another 5, more than 5, 15, 20, and all the way out to retirement for you. I'm generalizing about the average college student age, so apply it to your own situation, but you need to have some goals. And then identify the alternate courses. And this is going to change over time. Like I say, you don't come up with a plan and just stick with it the entire time and never modify your investments. You, like I say, you have the advantage of having time on your side if you're still young, and you can go after maybe a higher return or a longer term. But in any case, the time value of money is your friend. And when you're young, putting just a little bit away right now can pay off huge dividends later on. You've got those courses of actions. Do nothing. Yeah, that is a course of action itself always. If you don't do anything, yeah, you'll figure it out, but it'll likely be too late, and you won't have time for that time value money to help you out. Look at the alternatives, opportunity cost. I'll get into this later, but interest paid is relative to risk, and so you don't always want to take the risk averse thing, or you don't necessarily want to take the highest yield, because that's probably the highest risk. So you got to look at what will work for you, and maybe it's a diversified strategy, which most people opt for, and try and blend so your exposure is minimized, but yet if good things happen in the economy, you can benefit from it. And evaluate risk. Right. So implement your plan, and that's really the strategy. Through the course, we will come up with one of the tasks will be to set up a plan for yourself. And so if you act upon that plan, that's what I'm saying, you can actually get quite a bit out of this course. So review, revise your plan. Things are going to change. Family's going to change, your income's going to change. But the key thing is you kind of got to put a stake in the sand right now. Or not in the sand, but anyway, you know what I mean. You got to get moving now to maximize the whole time value of money, which is the focus of this chapter. So, personal financial goals. What do you need? I'm not going to preach to you here. Time frame. Obviously, retirement's a long ways out. That's going to take a certain strategy, and then financial goals. For me, I always like old sports cars, so I had short-term goals to get enough money for that, and then also I knew that I didn't want to be, groveling when I was older. So anyway, you've got to come up with a balance. Time on the goals, short-term, long-term, and different needs. Here's what they're talking about with their SMART goals. Specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-based. And if you form your goals with that sort of strategy, you'll be well on your way. Assess your personal economic factors, lifestyle, situation. You're going to look at different stages, like I said. And right now, when you're young, I actually, picked individual stocks, and it was fun. It was money that would not have gone necessarily in the bank, because that's not a whole lot of fun. But picking individual stocks was, it was almost like watching sports teams. So some of them did really well, some of them not so well, but in balance, I did well. So as you get older, though, people who are knocking on the door of retirement, or maybe saving for, child's college, and they're about to enter college, you need to be a bit more conservative if you want to be successful. Economic factors, the Federal Reserve Bank and its role in the economy. We could talk for days on this. There's huge issues with a lot of different things that affect the economy, and the government's role is something that you have to watch. But anyway, I'm not here to preach politics, but I'm just telling you, if you're picking stocks and you're looking at, this company should do well based upon economic circumstances, you need to be careful, because sometimes there's reasons that stocks move that have, in this case, a lot to do with the Fed rather than the health of that particular company. So we'll talk more about that when we get into different investments. But anyway, the economics are, especially at the time you're going to be entering the labor force, if you aren't already in it. Anyway, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. Global influence, things are changing, and people are a lot of times scared by investing globally. But for me, actually, it's worked quite well, and the borders and exchanges and all of the, friction basically that all involve fees. A lot of that stuff's going down, and a lot of practices internationally are being lessened. But the U.S. and its, as it transitions to mainly a service economy away from manufacturing, things are going to change. But you definitely need to be aware of what's going on in the global market. But as an investor, that's the beauty. You can invest in the global market quite easily. So you just have to know, where is the best place to be at a particular moment. So this is things that you are probably already aware of, how to kind of assess the economic conditions, consumer prices, consumer spending, all the different things, money supply. Again, be cognizant that it's not necessarily the information out there for what's truly going on. Sometimes it's quite difficult to find, and depending on the political bent or the agenda of the person reporting it, you can get the wrong information, and statistics can be skewed greatly. We'll talk about that a bit. This is just a chart that kind of shows what I'm talking about. If you're calculating unemployment, one of the factors is, you can probably see this better in your slides, on your actual slide deck, that on the statements there, but you can see the labor force participation rate is going way down. It's a basis of the chart. It's going from 66% down to whatever, 63.5 or so. But that trend is continuing, so that is going to make unemployment numbers look better than they actually are. It's because it's the math. If you look at the formulas and the way it's done, it can be a bit deceiving. I'm not being cynical here, but I'm just saying that unemployment numbers are probably not as good. It's you aren't comparing apples to apples when you look at the rates from previous years. And depending again on your politics, this can be attributable to demographics, that the baby boomers are aging out, or it can be attributable to people getting frustrated and giving up. But anyway, either way, you have to look at the numbers and realize that unemployment is probably a bit understated at this point. You can also look at the stock market and say it's the one thing that with the Fed can be possibly manipulated. Well, not possibly, can be manipulated upwards, and doesn't necessarily reflect the strength of companies. But anyway, I'm trying to stay away from that kind of stuff. But if you're trading stocks or trading investments, you do need to be careful where you get your information, or at least get it from multiple sources. Tools in every financial situation. Yeah, reduce debt usage. Not all debt is bad, though. You got to be able to buy a house, and not too many folks can pay it in cash. You can also reduce spending. There's better ways to do that than just going without, but maybe a little smarter. Reduce savings, investments. Make sure you got what you're going. Scams, that goes without saying. And communication. Yeah. All right. Influence on personal financial planning. So, you can buy a bunch of stuff. You can have a brand new truck. You can, finance things, or you can, have investments. So you got to look at what you're giving up in the short run. A lot of times you can have both, though. Like I say, I always had sports cars, but I never bought a new one. Automobiles, cars are horrible investments, but muscle cars from years back, Vipers and old Vets and stuff, they do well. So anyway, different ways to do it, and you just need to make sure that you as a college graduate and probably a business major, don't fall prey when you go to the car lot and the guy tells you how much the monthly payments are rather than the total price. You can kind of realize that he's looking at somebody selling the car to somebody who's probably not as educated as you, that can't do math and won't figure out that this is going to be a very expensive car by the time he ends up paying for it. Opportunity costs, your time, opportunity costs related to health and leisure, resources, anything you do, there's going to be a trade-off. But with the time value of money, if you can sacrifice, and not necessarily sacrifice, but prioritize to put away some money now when it's working, when it's compounding over the years, you can generate phenomenal amounts of cash. Time value of money. Okay, so that's about the 10th time we've said that, but it's the whole thing about compounding interest. If somebody says, I'm going to give you 10,000, or I'll loan you 10,000 bucks, or better yet, you're going to loan them 10,000 bucks, and you expect 10% interest. You really don't have enough information to act on. If they're going to give it to you for 10 years and they expect, 10%, you're going to give them 1,000 bucks in 10 years. That's not much. Now, if you're going to compound that, where you have to pay it back and that amount's going to change, your cumulative is going to be compounded each time. It's a whole different matter. Probably not the greatest explanation, but we'll talk about it more when you see the charts and you actually see the effect of compound interest and how it can add up. But that's why, in any loan agreement, the terms are critical to whether it's going to be a good deal or a very bad deal. So I put this in here about interest rates and paid or earned or analogous gambling. If you think you're going to do the great thing here and you're going to be very, very risk averse and you're going to earn 1% interest, what's going to happen is inflation is going to be something, usually a couple, 3%. So you think you're conserving your money, but actually it's being eaten up by inflation. The actual amount in your account will increase, but the buying power is going to be eroded. So now, conversely, you can go out there and seek some sort of high interest rate, but that's where we talk about junk bonds and other things. Obviously, junk is a pretty pejorative term for an investment. What you're trying to do, though, is you're trying to find the best amount of return with the lowest risk. So different investments have different things. 10 years ago, if I would have taught this course, I would have told you real estate is absolutely, you got to be brain dead not to be in real estate, and you can never lose money. And guess what? People lost lots. So anyway, risk and interest, they go hand in hand. This is what I was talking about in terms of inflation rates. You can see, we haven't had bad inflation for the past 10 years or so, but 4%. Are you getting 4% interest on your money? There's some years, 2007, where let's say you're making 6% interest and you think you're doing well. Well, guess what? You only really made 2% that year. So inflation is always going to be a problem because what are you concerned with? You're concerned with trying to buy stuff with this money eventually, and as that amounts to greater, you got problems. So interest calculations. Here we go in terms of showing you time value of money and all that. Principal, that's the amount of money you start with, interest rate obviously, and then the time involved. So those are going to be the three different entries. So in this case, they're looking at $100, 5%. For 1 year, that's $5. In 1 year, you've made 105. So they've given you enough information, but it's not quite a standard loan. You can do these charts if you look at them. Future value of a single amount. You start out with current amount and what's going to equal at that period. The future value is also called compounding. So that's now when the next year you're starting out that next year with 105. Okay, you earn 5% on that. Well, that's more than just that simple $5. It's going to be, because you earn interest on that $5 you earned in interest. That's why compounded yearly, not such a good deal. Compounded annual or daily, monthly, whatever. The shorter term, the quicker that compounds, that's better for you. Future value of serious deposits, that's called an annuity. So you're setting a certain amount each time, and you're going to get a calculation on that. That's an annuity. So you can do the math and do the formulas and stuff, but I also hold a real estate license, and those, math is not the strong suit of most of those folks. everybody just uses a chart. Business cards, it's usually printed on the back. Interest rates, all that stuff. And now, you've got all the online calculators, so not too many people, punching in numbers on a calculator. They're usually using something else, just a chart. Present value of a single amount. Okay, so this is working the other way. So current value of future amount. So $1,000 in whatever number of years. What do I need to invest to have my $1,000? The goal at the end. And present value of a series of deposits. It's kind of a backwards annuity. So, formulas, time value money tables, calculators, software. So, like I said, depends how often you're doing it. If you're out in the field doing real estate, it's probably going to be on a chart, maybe a calculator, but formulas, that would be horrendous. Those people would make some serious mistakes. And time value money websites, obviously. So, what we're going to do is we've got all these different chapters where we're going to cover, through the course. I'm chopping off the bottom line there, but anyway, we're going to go through a successive, all the elements of personal finance throughout the course. Flexible financial plan, all right. If it's not flexible, you aren't going to be able to deal with it. I mean, nobody has probably the expectation of lifelong employment anymore, so with the same company, so you got to be flexible. And plus your family's going to change. Implementing your financial plan. Probably no questions on here. This would be good for a chat. You guys can ask me. So anyway, that was chapter 1. Did anybody have any questions? I'm at about 26 minutes right now. I'm going to try to keep this thing under an hour. Anyway, that is really the meat of most of the stuff. If you understand time value of money, it's huge. But you have to keep in mind inflation. We'll touch on this in real estate, but if you use the example of somebody who's like saving up for a house and their dream house is $500,000, but whatever, maybe shorter expectations. But anyway, all they can afford right now is $250,000. But the real estate market's going to take off. Well, guess what? Time is kind of working against you in this case, because let's say the real estate market prices double. Okay, you bought at $250,000 and you want a house that costs $500,000. Okay, let's say everything doubles, so now your house is worth $500,000, and the dream house is now $1 million. So how far behind are you? Yeah, you started out $250,000 behind. Now you're $500,000 behind. So again, inflation. Inflation deals with buying power. So in real terms, that $500,000 you're behind probably has the same buying power as that $250,000. But anyway, it's just something to keep in mind when people think that the value of their house is running away, unless you're going to cash out and go live on an island and buy margaritas all day. But if you're buying another house, you're just jumping right back into the same market. So that doesn't always work out for you. Now, the financial aspects of career planning. This is chapter 2. There's some things in here in terms of writing resumes and things like that I'm going to tell you that there isn't really a standard way or a standard method of doing this in terms of employment. I've always been fortunate enough to have employment, and I've had several jobs. Not because I couldn't hold a job, but just when I was younger, before I entered the military, I wanted to kind of explore different things, and just to kind of avoid the grass is always greener scenario where I should have done that. Well, I kind of did do a lot of those jobs just to see what they were like, and that's not a bad way to go. But obviously, once I got in the military, I had a lot of job security, and whatever, too much, too hard. Choice factors. These are some of the objectives. Describe the activities associated with career planning. A job is just employment, but what you want is a career. That's great if you can get it. And there's probably a balance. Obviously, if you're going to school, doing something you like, you should be setting yourself up for a career and trying to get out of your job you've got now if it's not something you like. Trade-offs for career decisions. Yeah, again, there's risk, there's work life, but what you want, if you do something you like, then you aren't making those trade-offs, not as severely. Take a break for just a second. All right, so we were talking about trade-offs. Like I say, if you're lucky enough, get the job you want, and life will be good. Technical skills, general skills. Obviously, if you're going to be a mechanic, you probably aren't in this realm. I mean, there's no reason to, avoid technical type jobs, but, a lot of times they're very specialized, and you see that with a lot of folks in the military. General skills are more adaptable. Our education system is pretty good, actually, compared to, like in Germany. They have a track system where they kind of size up your potential early on, and they decide whether you're going to be a tradesman or a doctor or whatever, whether you're going to go to the university or not. But they're doing this like at the junior high level, so you kind of get pigeonholed. And I have a friend who's incredibly, he owns like 11 homes, all kinds of flash cars, Ferraris and stuff. And he can't type because he didn't go to that school. He's, anyway, it's just different systems. Most people here, end up with a number of general skills, and enough said on that. Personal factors, what are you good at? The SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunities, threats. If that's useful for you, go for it. But that just sort of, it's an assessment of what you're good at and what role you go. I don't mean to gloss over this chapter, but really the meat is in that chapter 1. And if you notice on the homework that you'll see at the end of the slides, that's where I've concentrated the information. Again, you can do these stages for their career cycle, and the best plans, but the plans usually don't, they're just a starting point, and then you adapt, and you figure out what works for you. And you got to get out and explore, especially when you're young. The worst thing you can do is end up, in some dead-end job. I actually, at one point, before I went in the military, I was a career, like a recreation administrator for a university. It was a great job. It just didn't look like, it was going to be something I wanted to do for whatever number of years, so I chose to go fly for a while. And it took me in a different direction, and, no worries. You can make those decisions when you're young and before you have too many commitments. So I encourage you to find something you like, because it's, 30 is a little young to be decided that you're stuck in something you don't want to do for the next 30 years. Anyway, explore. Okay, evaluate the factors that influence your employment opportunities. This whole economic conditions thing is I don't mean to be a downer here, but things need to improve. Fortunately up here in Alaska, you've got, a little bit better odds. And the other thing is, in regards to the unemployment rate, you only need one job, and there's a lot of things you can do now. Again, it's just like anything else. If you set yourself up early, you can prevail, because internships and exploring companies you might want to work for, it's a much lower risk and lower threat for a company to bring somebody on as an intern, and then you prove yourself, get your foot in the door, then you continue on. And there's all sorts of ways to do that. Okay, demographic trends. I appreciate the choir here. Everybody kind of knows that things change. Longer lifespans. That's true. A lot of people, and that's why I think some of this government data may be a bit skewed, where they show the labor force reducing and they say it's due to demographics. A lot of those folks are having to work a lot later in life, so it may be due to other factors. But anyway, you move to where the jobs and salaries are, and obviously a lot of folks move up here to Alaska to seek those sort of jobs, so you probably should be pretty well positioned. Career opportunities, high interest rates, the economy, and you'd have to add to this this healthcare thing. If the trend is going to be to only want to hire people part-time, that's going to be a real problem. But hopefully things will work out. These are where they say the jobs are. Obviously, your selection of a degree and everything else should be focused on trying to go into those types of fields. But if you notice anything that's common in here, in fact, there's services in about 4 or 5, 6 of those titles. So we've kind of gone away from heavy manufacturing, which, again, in Alaska never really specialized in that anyway. So, services are not a bad way to go, and can be. Obviously, doctors and other things are considered services. So, yeah, the money is certainly good as well, and the working conditions. People lament that manufacturing jobs have been decreased, but they're the same people who said that putting lug nuts on 10 hours a day was subhuman work. So anyway, it is what it is. Services are definitely increasing. How you do an employment search. Like I said, the internships, the volunteer work, part-time employment, campus projects, any one of these things are good. The time to think about getting a job is not, okay, I've graduated, now I need to go get a job. Probably not the best strategy. And there's a lot of things you can do as a college student to find out about a company that are very low threat, and especially, HR, human resources type things. There are so many legal constraints that they have to be very careful with information. Whereas if you're not really trying to get a permanent job, that'll probably be a lot freer to talk to you, and you'll get a better idea of the company before you start. Again, this information can get so out of date so quick. I mean, online sources, that's a huge category. Media, newspapers. Again, you don't want to be necessarily chasing trends and want ads, or at least print, or that's not happening. But anyway, the business contacts, professional organizations, again, it depends what field you're trying to get into, and that whole culture, and that's what you need to, you need to figure out. You need to come up with an idea of where you'd like to work, what you want to do, and then work in that field. And some of these volunteer type opportunities, especially if it's if you're looking at doing something in some of the environmental or Department of Interior, those kind of things. If you're a volunteer, you're going to stand out from the crowd of the stack of resumes. So that's what you need to do. You need to find out how to separate yourself out. Networking, obviously. A lot of these things, though, sometimes they talk about networking and mentoring, and sometimes it's kind of the good old boy network. So steer clear of that. That stuff is not necessarily ethical. Networking is good, but I'm saying some of the other things, the nepotism and all that stuff, it's pretty rampant. Effective networking, asking questions of others. Anyway, it's not using your friends, but it's, and believe me, things like LinkedIn and all the rest of that, I have a lot of friends who are, pretty active in that, and it's worked out for them in terms of keeping in contact with people who, can potentially get them jobs later. Job opportunities. It depends, again, on the thing. This telephone and business directories, that's kind of a stretch. There is a business directory here in Alaska that's probably worth seeking. It's a pretty thick book that comes out that's got all the addresses in it. Now, sending folks just blind resumes, probably not going to work for you. But locating the companies, and especially locating when you're kind of a low-threat kind of guy and just saying, I want an internship or I want to do an informational interview, that can be huge. And then you kind of establish those contacts, and then when you go to get a job and the pressure's on, you're comfortable with the people, they're comfortable with you, and you have a better chance for success. Applying for employment, resume, cover letter, interview. Again, trying to teach and tell you specifically what to do, because there isn't a specific way of doing it. Different companies have different things they're looking for in folks. So it's hard to do. We'll probably touch over these things later, but first off, resumes. You need a tailored resume to each different type of thing that you're going to apply for. But you'll see somewhere where they'll say a one-page resume. Well, guess what? If it's government employment and they're looking, and most big companies too, do what they call a keyword search. So if you do a one-page resume, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. Also, using a resume service, that's going to get incredibly expensive if you have to send out, tailored resumes to each, potential employer. So I would come up with a format that works for you, and then kind of find out what's within their culture, and maybe some sort of hybrid, maybe a resume that's got all the details up front, but then just has pages of keywords taken from the job announcement that are going to ping the computer to get your resume looked at by a person. Because if it is just a one page, and if it doesn't hit a certain number of keywords, it'll get binned, or, well, not even, it's probably just going to be electronic, and it's probably just going to get deleted. So anyway, cover letters, I try and put that stuff in the resume rather than have a specific, if you know you've got a good chance with a company, specific company, you would probably do that, but that sort of implies that you're using some sort of one-size-fits-all resume, which I don't think is a good idea. And then the interview, a lot of different strategies on that, but it has to do with your people skills and probably, if anything, practice. But you got to get to the interview is the main thing. Financial and legal aspects of employment, corporate culture and policies, factors affecting salary. It depends who you're working for, To broadly stereotype, private sector is more interested in results, and, public sector a lot of times is more degree-oriented and certifications and things like that. Private sector may require those things, but they are profit oriented, and they want to know what you're going to do for them kind of right then. So, evaluating employee benefits. We're going to spend a lot of time on this in subsequent chapters, but you need to look at what the benefits package is, if there is a benefits package. And with a lot of companies, though, you may be kind of designing your own benefits, the sort of cafeteria style that they reference there, or they may not offer benefits, and you're going to have to, put it together. I have friends who work for airlines. One of the airlines is Ryanair in out of Ireland. And those guys pay phenomenal, but there's no benefits, nothing. So if you're not smart and, buy your insurance and make your investments, it's pretty short-sighted. Techniques for career growth. Career can be a lifetime, flexible, good stuff, but we're not going to dwell on it. Stages of career development. We're looking at some long-term things that probably from your position right now, just entering the career, it will take care of itself as you go, but things are going to change, and it's just like the financial plan. You adapt and you change as things go. Training opportunities. Of course, you have to be current in whatever field you're going to be in, and take advantage of any training that's available. And now, especially some of the stuff is available online, so it's not necessarily that. It does help you in your development, but also it shows kind of the initiative. If you go into a company, you say, I've got such and such certificate that's relevant to their field, and you just went out and did it as a self-starter, that may be the differentiation between you and the guy they don't hire. So the mentor, mentor just leaves a bad taste or whatever. It's there can be, and there are some really gifted people who will help folks, and if you meet those folks, but there's also whatever good old boy stuff. So stay away from that. But if there is somebody willing to truly mentor you, definitely take advantage of it, because it's a great thing. Changing careers, like I said, the notion of having one job and sticking with it for your entire career, it's probably going to change. So you need to make sure, in your financial planning, that you have some portability. Portability is kind of the key concept you're looking for, that you've got plans that will change around with you. Also, some of the benefits where they're tied to the particular company, that can be a bad thing, especially if that company happens to go belly up and your retirement's stuck in. There's a lot of public employees that, no fault of their own, they shopped around for the best benefits they had, but Careful analysis would have shown that that's unsustainable, that, some of these people with these fantastic municipal pensions like in Detroit will never collect them. Anyway, you can't fault them for trying, or you can't even fault the people who offered them who knew that they couldn't sustain it. But anyway, not a good idea, not a good plan. Long-term career development, high-growth industries. I mean, this is, in a perfect world, you're going to do every one of these things. I don't need to tell you how to eat and sleep. Anyway, we'll stick to personal finance. Resume, personal data section, career objective, education, different categories. Look at some books, look at some samples. But again, the thing is, if you can, a year or two out from your potential employment, get an informational interview and talk to somebody, or go to a career fair and find out what they're doing, because each culture is completely different. And I can just tell you, talking to people and looking at resumes for potential hires and stuff, some people just, they blow it, or they do this one-page thing and sell themselves short, or other people completely overstate to where you question their integrity from the get-go. So be careful, but be realistic, but don't sell yourself short. And seriously, I do not think a one-page resume is what's working for anybody. Different ways to set it up. Targeted, prepared for a specific job down there. I usually, the top paragraph is going to be that targeted bit. The rest will be chronological, functional, and it depends on how you do it. Depending on the amount of experience, some ways it looks better, depending on whether you've had gaps. You've had huge gaps and you put chronological, that's going to highlight that. You don't need to do that. And anyway, you're going to look at your own thing. And like I say, keyword search is what you're up against, and that's not just for e-resumes. That's for pretty much any resume. They're going to scan it. It's going to go into a file, and if you don't hit the keywords, you're not going to be seen by a person. You're not even going to be evaluated. So you got to make sure that you look at the job announcement and you get those keywords in there, because the government, that's already the standard, and large companies, they just don't have the time to go through, give individual resumes the amount of attention that you deserve. But that's it. Preparation, professional manner, limit to one page, no. Star principles, situation, task, actions, results. Yeah, if you're going to put some statements on there, there's always the so what kind of factor. You put that you've done this or done that, but what were the results? What happened? How is that company better, or you're a better person? So a bunch of fluff is not good. It looks like you're just kind of being deceptive. So make sure that there's some results in there. Cover letter, get the reader's attention. I'm telling you, I just never did cover letters. I always did thank you letters after an interview, but the cover letter, a lot of times your resume goes in a stack, and the cover letter might even go in the trash. So I would generally put more time into the resume. Anyway, the job interview. Anyway, I've got the cleaning crew coming in now, so we'll talk over. Yeah. All right, so we got the cleaning crew coming in here, so I'll try and wrap this up pretty quick. Our, what do you call it, thing went so swimmingly earlier, it's now coming up on 11 o'clock, so, but we'll get this done. Job interview, preparation, and you can't go in there and wow them unless you have some skills to add to the field. If you're just going in there on pure interview skills, that's not probably going to seal the deal. But more interviews is generally good, so don't be afraid to get interviews with different companies, even if they aren't your first choice, because you'll learn a little something probably each time, and you'll hear their questions. Also, now with the internet, if you go in an interview blind without having a heads up, it's like a college course or like an instructor. you talk to people and you find out, hey, what are they going to ask me? What do I need to know? So don't worry about that. And also don't get disappointed. A lot of times, especially in the government sector, they've got a guy they're going to hire, but they got to interview 5 people to make it all look good, and you're just kind of there. Don't get frustrated. Just hopefully next time you're that guy. But yeah, I know a lot of people can take it personally, and it's not. They're just going through the motions to make it legal. So, this is going to be the homework. Okay, so you can see that it's definitely heavy on, well, extremely heavy on Chapter 1. And those are all kind of time value of money type things. What we'll do with the homework before you get ready to submit it, which will be before the next course. So I'll probably set the time at, something like Tuesday night at midnight of the following week. So it should be a time crunch. I don't want, I want you to do the homework, and I don't want you to rush through it. And we'll get it done. If you have any other questions, let me know. We will continue to, I'll continue to press with the collaborate type thing. I mean, it's a good concept. It's just, and it's going to have to work at some point. But we'll work this out. And welcome to the class. Thanks.